Welcome to the Carter Shaw Show. I'm here with my first guest ever. First time we're doing this. Here, Donnie, a big member in the Doyle's community. Could you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, like you said, I'm a big member of the Doyle community. Some might say king. I'm Ronnie. I'm 18. I'm an American born, but I live in the Turks and Caicos.
hmm And would you describe yourself as America first? Is that kind of aligned with your beliefs?
Definitely, I think no matter, I think one country has great values and great history that should be preserved in terms of community and social network with one another. You should definitely put that first.
hmm And do you ever feel that we aren't being sympathetic by like bailing out Turks? Do you feel like as a country, we need to be bailing out other countries? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I don't think so. I think as a country, your role is to your own people. I mean, first, I mean, if you have excess, then sure. But when you're already trillions of dollars in debt, yeah, no.
Okay. And as a black expert, a token black guy, you've heard of the a lot of conservatives pushing for Jenner to try and like own the libs. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh boy. I mean, a lib. I mean, by definition, can't own the libs, right? This is literally a liberal who I guess doesn't like taxes or something, trying to just ruin the momentum of the Trump movement. I think because
Yeah.
I mean it's pretty obvious that Caitlyn Jenner voted for Trump, but because Caitlyn, I'll say Caitlyn, I won't use gender language, is
I
a
will.
trans is in California. Caitlyn can't say that Caitlyn voted for uh, Donald J. Trump. We saw when Caitlyn was wearing the MAGA hat, but I mean, really, Caitlyn doesn't stand for conservatives. No conservatives thinks this is the one person. Like no way. Like that is a detrimental to the conservative movement, to what conservatism. I mean, fundamentally means. There's no way.
And the kind of thought process I've seen is that like they can't call us like transphobic or something, but as we've
Oh,
seen from multiple sources like Sarah Silverman, they'll just say, "Oh, you're not a real transgender person," and then they'll just call us a transphobe anyways. It doesn't
yeah,
work.
and that's what's happening. Like they literally called Caitlyn a transphobe because Caitlyn doesn't support. I mean, and rightfully doesn't support transgender. Okay, boys pretending to be girls playing in girl sports. Caitlyn doesn't said that Caitlyn doesn't support that. So I mean, for them to call someone who's literally transgender transphobic, it just speaks to you can't beat the left at their own game. Identity politics is their game. They make the rules. They decide who wins. So I mean, even me as a black conservative, I'm a conservative because I'm a Christian. I don't
hmm
worship tax. I don't worship. I mean, capitalism. I don't worship anything. I worship Jesus Christ, and that's it. Like, so so I don't get any sort of pleasure in saying, "Oh, we won this election, therefore this is a good thing." Like, if we've won an election in which we had to elect a man with mental illness, that's not a win.
hmm
I
And I,
mean,
I
just
definitely
years ago, if you may be going to this later, but just years ago, this person was literally the example of mental illness to conservatives. This was the talking point to conservatives. And now some of those very same conservatives are campaigning for this person.
and I think it's really telling the idea of like just winning elections and then that like being it, as far as like having someone in the party in office means that we like win ideologically. It really hasn't worked out. Like especially when at the beginning of Trump's presidency, we had control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Same with Bush. It's not like we got anything done because a lot of the Republicans we elected by party line weren't actually conservative.
Yeah, and it's the age old thing. Like conservatism is not the same as being a Republican. Like we see with Liz Cheney, who just got kicked out. Like that woman was on leadership. Yeah, that woman was on leadership. I mean, because her daddy was vice president, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's about time that conservatives pay attention. I mean, I think with the hustle and bustle of life, no one on either side really pays attention. So it's easy to just say, okay, this person is running as a Republican, so I should vote for them. Or this person is running as my party, therefore I should vote for them. But I think it's time to really pay attention to what's going on and pay attention to who is running. I think if there's any good thing that's coming out of Caitlin's bid for governor, I think it's that conservatives are really saying, wait, what are these people conservative? I think with Trump as president for the last 4 years and Caitlin now running, it's two sides of the same coin. Like conservatives are seeing, okay, this is what we want in a person, and this is what we don't. You know?
Yeah, I think it's especially telling when you have like the New York Times, NBC, CNN. You know, people that aren't pro the Trump movement are like supporting Cheney now and defending them because
Yeah.
they know that Cheney is really a threat to our movement by existing in their party and party hopping.
And
You're
they know
effectively
that removing her is a threat to their movement, to their power, really, because it's saying it's no longer the establishment who's in control. It's really the people now. You see that, like, I mean, people who were bashing, I mean, Bush and Cheney in, what is it, 08? From the 2000s straight down to 08 are now interviewing her and, I mean, licking her boot. Like this is embarrassing, honestly.
Yeah, the people that like hated on Bush are now like really just like loving on these Bush conservatives that were never actually effectively wielding power because they wanted us distracted from the idea that like these people were trying to take up seats as Republicans and prevent actual conservatives from getting into power.
Yeah,
that was their role, and they were trying to like not let us know that by like attacking them. And now that like we have them ousted, they're showing their hand.
Yeah, and they're calling them heroes, and they're all over Twitter saying, you know, Liz Cheney is the only one who didn't support the Capitol riot, the worst day in American history since 9/11, right? She's the only one who wanted Trump out of office. And they're going on and on and on about essentially why we voted her out and why they want her to stay, which are all the same reasons.
You know, I could think of at least like 1,000 worse things have happened since 9/11, but it's really, it was just a bunch of old people like LARPing, and effectively that's like what we're embracing now with Jenner. It's like we're embracing a LARPer, basically.
Oh, so true. That is so true. We've become a LARPing society.
We really have. So going on to the Jenner thing, as a Black conservative, have you ever like experienced what a lot of others have with like you aren't Black or whatnot, as Jenner has with not being like transgender because they don't go with the ideology?
Yeah, definitely. Because there's this sort of groupthink in Black America that, okay, you're Black, you have to stay on this track. You can't even look on that track. Like just like Biden said, if you consider voting for Trump as a black person, you're not black. But you know, and I mean, I don't even blame him for saying it. I think people got mad because he said it, but that's been that's been what black people have been saying to each other for, I mean, last maybe 50, 60 years. But it's like, personally, I have dealt with people. I remember the day after the Capitol thing, my sister was in the car and she asked me like if I still support Trump or something like that. I was like, yeah, definitely. I mean, Trump didn't tell these people to do this, and I didn't give her my honest opinion about the whole thing, but I was just like, okay, Trump didn't tell these people to do this. Like, why would I care? And she goes off on me. She's like, how do you as a black person, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what does this have to do with me being black? Me caring about my country, me caring about the integrity of elections, me caring about, like, how does that affect me being black? And I mean, there's countless scenarios. Like, I have, leftist friends who aren't establishment left, sort of like Bernie 2016
Mm-hmm.
left, who we just joke about how I'm like a coon or whatever. And, yeah, so I mean, I've sort of accepted it. I mean, I don't really care. Like,
Mm-hmm.
my opinions aren't those that I make up every day. My opinions come from what God has said in His Word, and I think I can't change that no matter what.
And my question would be, do you think that more so comes from like within the black community, or do you think there's a large element of like outsiders like propping up certain people to enable that?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I think, how do I phrase this? Right? If you look at the Obama administration, the goal of that administration was so clearly like LGBTQ justice rather than black justice, and I think that's what a lot of black Americans have really noticed. Just speaking to even leftists, they're like, okay, Obama was just a figurehead. Obama was not an actual someone for the people
Mm-hmm.
or for the community or whatever. And you see that time and time again, where LGBTQ activists point to civil rights, point to slavery, and they say, look at that, look at this bad thing that happened in America. It's the same thing repeating itself with gay people. It's the same thing repeating itself with trans people. It's the same thing repeating itself with this non-gendered people. Like, no, it's not. It's very different. That's the first things first. You don't have the same history as black people. You never will. But coming back to the question, I think it's definitely all politically motivated, politically funded. Specifically,
Mm-hmm.
you look at Act Blue funding Black Lives Matter, or the funding of Black Lives Matter. What is it? What am I trying to say? The donations of Black Lives Matter going to Act Blue, which essentially was going to Biden's campaign. These are politically motivated actions. They're not unbiased. They're not, I can have this opinion, I can just support BLM and not I can support the movement, but not the organization. I think the two go hand in hand. And it's despicable because, like I said earlier, I think black people and conservatives are really similar because most black people are conservative, but they're just
Mm-hmm.
not Republican. So they're not paying attention to the everyday cycle of politics. They have better things to do. They have jobs. They have this. They have that. So it's like they don't know what is going on. So it's like, oh, a black person got shot, and then a couple of weeks go by, another black person got shot. Oh, this is happening every day. This is happening. This is an epidemic. Therefore, I have to protest. I have to post a black square. I have to go all out. And I think if conservatives if there was a way for conservatives to really grab the attention of Black people and say, this is all like manufactured,
Hmm.
which I think is sort of happening, it would be easier for us to really say, um, to really solve some of the issues, because none of them, if I don't know if you really pay attention, but the the same issues aren't actually being solved.
Hmm.
They're just being brought up time and time again to say, give us your votes, give us your money, and that's it, right? I think that sort of answers your question.
Yeah. Um, I think it's definitely telling. Like, if you go up to the average Black person, ask them about gay marriage, and see like the differentiation in their response
Yeah,
to gay marriage than to being a Republican. I think
yeah,
it's something that'll undoubtedly get better when we like stop embracing this party politic neoconservatism. Is
yeah,
that once we start actually embracing social conservatism, I think that's
yeah,
probably the best way to get the vote just um rather than doing this stuff that we have been doing of what's the word I'm trying to think of. Oh well, just putting people like Tim Scott or people that don't really represent social conservatism to
yeah.
kind of,
Like
I don't know why I
fiscal.
can't think of that word. Oh well. Um, and I think it's really telling. Like a lot of liberals will say that Black people are still enslaved, which to some part they're not wrong, but not for the reasons that they think. So it's not
Yeah,
that it's not that the people in power are holding. I mean, kinda. It's not like the white supremacist GOP people keeping them down. It's the people in power that are creating the media to keep them as their
exactly,
voting bloc, and
exactly,
the white liberals that are
exactly.
not to be like the average. The Democrats are the real racists because that's kind of annoying. But although it's not wrong, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah,
But
and I think I totally agree with what you just said because, oh boy, okay, oh, I lost my train of thought because I dropped this thing just now. But wait, repeat the last thing you said again.
um, the part before the part about the Democrats or after?
After.
Okay, I said it's kind of like annoying when about the Democrats are real racist, but it's not wrong. They are like the occupied power that are
Yeah,
trying to keep them as a voting
yeah,
bloc.
yeah. That's what I was gonna speak to, and the part before actually. But I mean, they have they see that there's a problem. They see that Black people are still enslaved in a sense, but it's not. It's really not white supremacists. It's really not that. And I think Black people now have this fear of white supremacists because every movie you see, it's either about history or it's some deranged, creepy, just psychopathic movie like Get Out. I don't know if you've seen Get Out, but it's so crazy. Like
I'm glad I haven't, but I know of it.
it's so unrealistic because, well, do you know the plot at least?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so just wow. But it's either that or it's some slavery movie that's bringing up more hatred, more division. So it's clear that there's an agenda, which is to keep people divided, and it's not simply one to say um, you have to vote for me or you have to do this, but
Hmm.
you don't have. You have to keep focused on this so that you don't see that you are still in chains. You have to focus on your race. You have to focus on your gender. You have to focus on, um, climate change. You have to focus on all these things beyond your control in a sense, and all of these uh, boogeymen in the closet, you know, so that you don't actually see the one that's standing right in front of you, the big corporation that's deciding all of the legal action that's actually going through in the country, the big tech that's deciding who can speak, the all of these uh, corporations that are actually calling the shots, rather than, call your state governor, call your this, your that, and tell them that you demand justice for Breonna Taylor. Like, really? You think that is the biggest issue in our community?
Mm-hmm. Excluding the Breonna Taylor part, that sounded kind of like me in my videos, but it's definitely like there's an extent to it. Of course, not as the Democrats are like portraying it, but like even as like there was in slavery of like a lot of black people like selling out their families, and that's really like what is happening. Is like there's a lot of different black people kind of like keeping other blacks down, but it's not. This is something I don't like is when a lot of like corporate GOP people will be like, just figure it out and like help yourself. Which like I understand the importance of independence and like making yourself the best you can, but honestly, that's not going to ever be effective unless we start wielding policy and like get the people out of power that are really like ingraining these ideas into them that are causing them to not flourish. And that's really like what we got to tackle, and then go to extents like removing affirmative action, welfare, things of the such that have been keeping people down.
It's absolutely true. I 100% agree and reiterate. So I was gonna say, we need to remove this sort of this idea from Black people that you're being held down, while also realizing the actual issues of the past that are even some still in the current. I think there's a way to do it, and I don't think either side has really picked it up yet. I think with the populist movement picking up steam, then we can really come together and say, let's figure it out. But I don't think there's any other way. There is no other way to get that done.
I mean, you're completely right on that. Again, as we went back earlier, like the populist movement, bring in social conservatism. That's really something that we could win on, unify together. And this is one of the things I wanted to ask you about is there's a large percentage of the Black population is Christian, but a lot of times that doesn't correlate to like culture. What would be like your thoughts and the reasoning for that?
Oh yeah, that's true. That is true. I think I sort of come from a different culture than Black Americans, because I'm from the Caribbean, which is a lot more traditional than Black American culture. Like when I see on TV like the stuff that goes on in Black America, like Atlanta and those sort of big Black American cities, I just think what the expletive, right? I just can't imagine that happening here. I mean, I guess I would say the issue is that the church itself has been watered down, and so they sort of think I can go to church, I can do these things, or I can call myself a Christian but act how I please, and that's it. Like I know a few pastors that even my mom listens to that are just sort of activists, and all they preach from their pulpit is about how the white man has chains on you, and we need to get Trump out of office, and we've got the first Black VP woman,
debatably,
VP. Right? And all of these talking points that have nothing to do with the Bible, that have nothing to do with the gospel of Jesus Christ that saves, and that is what church has become. So I think Black Americans have sort of allowed, I don't want to sound like Trump's next VP, but have allowed the victim mentality to really what's the word I'm thinking of? Filter into all aspects of the Black community. So it's not just in the home or in the news or in the politics, but it's on Black TV shows. It's on Black pulpits in churches.
It's in the music.
Yeah, it's deep in the music, and I think that too has a part to play, because the music, I don't get it. Like, the musicians even call themselves Christian. Like, Cardi B is thanking God for her excelling.
Thank God for letting me be a whore and a prostitute. Thank you. Praise
Honestly,
God.
like, I was just like, there's no way this is real. And so that's the only thing I can think of. It's just that the churches are not doing their job to be actual salt and light, but they want to be celebrity pastors. Therefore, they're preaching what is acceptable.
And this is probably like an unpopular opinion on kind of the conservative side, is that some historical things actually do have consequences. Like, I think the fact that like predominantly we're separated by like there's such thing as like Black churches really like allows this to happen. And that was really something that was created under like segregation.
Yeah.
And I mean, that still has a lasting impact, even though some people like to act like it doesn't. It does. When we're like not in one church, you allow like different ideologies to be taught based on it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. I think the church split itself has allowed people to think, okay, they are different from us, even though we believe
Those
in the
people.
same, we worship the same God. Apparently, we should, if we're calling ourselves a church. But yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Segregation, the consequences of that have made Black people comfortable just being around their own kind. One of my favorite pastors, actually, Vodi Bakum, he's devoted his time as a pastor to going to predominantly white churches, because he's Black and he's grown up in Black. Well, he didn't grow up in Black church, but he started preaching in Black churches. So he was like, how do I, do things that are uncomfortable but are actually bringing glory to God in a way? Because God's church is not a Black church or a white church. In heaven, there's not going to be a side with Black people or a side with white people. There's going to be all of us culture. There's going to be no really different culture. I'm gonna stop preaching now.
Yeah, it's like in The Lion King, whenever Mufasa's telling him like, "Oh, there's the dark side. Don't go over there," and they imagine that's gonna be like what's heaven like. Like, don't go over to those people.
Honestly.
And I definitely really like to watch like Jesse Peterson's preaching.
Oh,
I love Jesse Peterson's preaching. That's
Jesse
awesome.
Lee.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. He's not really Black though. He's not really Black though.
Not really Black. So
Kamala Harris, the Jamaican Indian woman, is and so is the mixed Obama person. Yeah.
Yeah, Kamala Harris is so Black, bro. She's literally the blackest person to ever be Black.
So true.
She literally carries hot sauce in her bag, and so sweet. She's so Black, bro.
I was watching the Biden. I guess I forgot what his State of the Union was called, but it was effectively a State of the Union, and they clapped for like 20 minutes for like Biden and Kamala Harris getting up there, and then they were finally all about to sit down. They were midway sitting down, and then Biden says, "And the female vice president to my right," and then everyone got back up and had to start clapping because it's the pandering that exists.
Wasn't it like 2 minutes of them not clapping in that entire thing?
I don't know.
I think someone timed like all of their time clapping, and it was like 2 minutes of them not clapping.
Mm-hmm. It was
It's
just it was just a corrupt people circle jerk. Honestly, that's all it
honestly,
was.
honestly, that's all it was. That's literally all it was. Yeah. The state, the other state of democracy.
Yeah, and honestly, that's something that's really the fault of us for not structuring power in a way that this wouldn't happen. I mean, again, I'll go back to what I said earlier. We had we had Reagan. I mean, yeah, we had Reagan, Bush, and then we had a gap with Clinton, which wasn't really that liberal compared to other presidents. And then we had Bush again. And we had a unified government under Bush, and then we had the unified government the first 2 years of Trump. But what we were having is we were having liberals under the Republican Party that were
Yeah,
getting seats for being Republican, but were actually preventing conservatives from getting in power because people
that's
saw the
correct.
R. People saw the R, and then were like, okay, they agree with us, and then put them in. And now we have like Susan Collins, Liz Cheney, Marco Rubio, Mitt Romney, all these people.
Yeah, and even people like Mitt Romney, like Marco Rubio, right? Like this guy is a politician. That's all he is. He
Mm-hmm.
will say what he needs to say to get by. You'll see he flip flopped from 2016 when he was all anti-Trump, anti-this, anti-that. Now he's pro-Trump. Now he's Trump's. Uh, like just, I think he it's crazy because he's gonna win his seat again. I think, but he's still a rhino. I think we've forgotten that he's still a rhino.
Mm-hmm. I do think good signs are coming though, and that really shows with Liz Cheney being out and
Yeah,
poll numbers coming in with Jenner. Good signs are coming for the
yeah,
American First movement. We're starting to
yeah.
pick up some steam as more people are realizing, like, given the drastic change in the country, more people are realizing the importance of our movement. And
Mm,
I think we've started to grow so much presence that we've seen like different conservative pundits that are based off of like lobbyists started to actually be pushing conservative ideas, like Charlie Kirk
yeah,
recently, like with the socialism boogeyman, and then he did something about completely stopping legal and illegal immigration, both completely just
yeah.
stopping immigration. And it was like, I don't know if either he's hearing us because we're growing presence or his lobbyists are hearing us because we're growing presence. But either
Mhm.
way, it's signifying that we're growing in size and power and
Definitely.
influence.
Yeah. I, I was about to say that. You see where the big guys have to bow to us because they realize, really, they realize that they can't win elections,
Hmm.
right, without us. That's their first realization because these people don't actually care about anything except winning elections, which is
Hmm.
honestly so weird to me. Like, how are you in politics and all you care about is saying, okay, we won an election, and you're not caring about the policy, you're not caring about the things that your voters actually want. How do you say, okay, we won an election, so that's good? I don't know if you saw the whole Ryan Fournier thing.
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where he's like endorsing Caitlyn Jenner. He can't give a reason, but oh, Trump did this. I worked with Trump campaign. I was depressed because I worked
Hmm.
with Trump and all of these things. I think he was drunk. I don't know.
He was definitely.
But, but it was so obvious. There was no reason for him to be supporting
Hmm.
Caitlyn except the fact that he thinks that he can win an election off of
Hmm.
identity politics, bringing it right back to where we started. It was identity politics then, and I think it's it's the same sort of pandering that we're sort of seeing now. But I think this pandering is good because it's actually doing what the people want. When you're saying, "Oh, the socialists are are in our legislative branch,"
Hmm.
that's not getting anywhere because we don't have this sort of image of socialism fresh in our minds, like say the boomers or
Hmm.
their parents' generation, right? So I think that's what they were trying to do because you look at President Reagan, he could have gotten away with saying that maybe,
Hmm.
and presidents around that time, but you can't bring something from that era into ours because really socialism isn't that big of
Hmm.
a threat.
I, I think the real question you got to ask is, like if you think socialism is coming, why? Why do you think it's become so pervasive? And
Yes.
the obvious
Yeah.
idea would be it wouldn't be as pervasive if it was completely partisan, but the intellectualism that has really created this has been incorporated by the right so much to just allow it to happen.
Yeah.
Like with the what was it called? I think it was a Frankfurt. Oh yeah, the Frankfurt School, and all the Marxist intellectualism that came from there, and the anti-metaphysical policies of like, there's no such thing as national identity. There's no allegiance to yourself, to your country. It was this intellectualism to stop like fascism that we had to absolve ourselves from our nation. And what we found is that we aren't actually catering to Americans as we should be. And like as you said, they're starting to have to bow to us. And I get that's like a scary word for many, but there's nothing like that's a good thing. Our politicians should be bowing and serving the American people.
Yeah.
That's their job.
That is their job. And I think for far too long they've gotten away with it because people weren't paying attention to politics. And I think when the big disruptor came in, Trump in 2016, everyone's eyes were back on Washington. And it was like, okay, so what are these people actually doing? And then people were listening to Trump and they were like, wait, this guy is actually making sense. Wait, this guy is saying what I was thinking. I was wondering why these people aren't doing this too. It's about time we have people that are asking the same questions and answering those questions with plausible solutions.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you really look at it, like again, I'll bring up the unified government. Like, why do we still have kids getting on hormone blockers? Why do we still have the pervasiveness of like pornography? Why do we have these like all these gun policies coming through? Why are we having this big tech censorship? It's really that we've been pussies for so long. I mean, that's probably as light as I can put it, honestly, is that we've been afraid of wielding power because we're afraid of what will the left do if they get power. And it's like, buddy, they're going to use power against you anyway. So do you not see what they're doing with like tech censorship? Our president isn't allowed on social media. The most powerful man in the country was not allowed on social media anymore. And it's like, is he really the most powerful man in the country if he's being controlled by these corporations?
Yes, and I think that pulled back the curtain, like for everyone. He is not the one in charge. So clearly, no one in Washington is. They work for their big tech sponsors. They work for these people who run their campaigns, who run these things, and say and tell them what to do. Really, they've got their hands up their rear end, puppeteering every move that they make, and I think we're waking up to it, and because we're waking up to it, Republicans have to sort of say, okay, let's actually do this. And we're seeing people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Josh Hawley and Matt Gaetz really stand up for the people instead of for themselves and for, their corporations, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely think like you're definitely right on that. And when it comes to like things like we were speaking earlier to the Ryan Fournier thing, I mean, he did eventually tweet out that like he was now convinced that we shouldn't run gender for the Hispanic vote. We're winning. And that really started with, I think it started with Trump, which was his biggest strength was his narcissism. The fact that he was so arrogant that he would not allow himself to be influenced by the establishment around him.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a couple times he did. I don't think he was a perfect, like he wasn't perfect by any means, but like he was the best person we could get for that role of just ignoring the establishment, trying to push him into liberalism and make him cave on different issues. The fact that he was so arrogant really allowed us to like push back against this swamp and this area around him. he wouldn't allow himself to be influenced, and he would hold his ground.
Yeah. And like you said with Ryan, right? He didn't say because, I mean, Caitlyn doesn't stand for the conservative movement. He said because the Hispanic vote. Once again, pulling back the curtain as to what his true motives are to win elections. Like what do we gain from you just simply winning elections and not actually caring about the state of conservatism of the party that you stand for, apparently, and the country that you so dearly love, apparently, supposedly.
If winning elections is this really like effective strategy, why are we here? We had Bush Senior. Why are we here?
Yeah.
Like we had Reagan, Bush Senior, like in a row. We were winning elections. Why did we keep moving to the left?
Yeah.
It's effectively that like just getting in power is not a means of actually having power. Just because we are in positions of power or we have people that we think are representing us in power doesn't mean we actually have the power, because so often those people that are in power aren't actually wielding it or are not actually for our movement.
Yeah, that's once again, that's true. Why are we here if winning elections is our only goal? And it's not for the voters. You know, our only thoughts are not, okay, it's a Republican, so he has to win. Our thoughts are, oh, it's election season, let's get this over with, you know? So I think Trump just sort of brought back enthusiasm, in a good way and a bad way, because I think politics has really just gotten out of hand and once again filtered into every aspect of everything. And it's like, oh, if you don't support this thing, you don't support this person, or you don't support, you're not black, you're not, you know, and oh, you don't care about this, you're not an ally to the black community, you're not, you know. So I think there's too much politics in our lives in that aspect. But
I think there's a layer to that of there being too much politics, but like at this point it's something that like we can't like push away to having less politics at this point. Like we have to, the left, the liberals, the left, they aren't gonna be pushing for less politics. The only people that would be us by stopping our influence. So really we gotta push the gas here. It's unfortunate. I mean, we have this idea of like having block parties, and we really like that's what we want to have at the end of the day. But we have to start pushing these politics so we can eventually have that goal for our children or our grandchildren. We're not going to see it in our lifetimes, but we got to hope that our children and grandchildren can live in that society that we so dream of being able to just live with your friends, regardless of political affiliations.
So true. And I think we need to make it this society what we hey, 1 second.
That's fine. I'll pick up from here, unless you ease back. Okay, so I definitely agree. I think this conversation's been going great so far. Definitely had a very good discussion on optics and how we should be pushing our movement, how we win. I mean, these are things I love to cover because it's really of the utmost importance right now, is us not winning in order to be in power, but winning in an actual sense, which is actually winning on our grounds. Because we aren't winning if we're getting into office and the Overton window is still shifting away from us. That's not winning. All right.
Okay, thanks for that. What was the last thought?
I'm not sure. I'm going to be honest.
Okay. Conservatism. Oh yeah, block parties and whatnot, and expanding. Oh, I was gonna say something. I can't quite remember. But yeah, I'll just go from what I can remember. I agree with what you said about the block parties. we need to focus on, holding forth and sort of pressing on and really pushing back, because we don't have any leverage to say we're going to relax or we're going to not care about politics, because we don't have, even when we're in the White House, even when we have control of the House, the Senate, we do not have the power. We don't. We've seen that. And we don't have any say over the media, which is really another layer of control in political field, because what's popular dictates what's going to be likable, what's culture, what's acceptable, what's moral, what's ethical. And this is where my sort of Caribbean side comes out, because we are a lot more conservative culturally, like I said, compared to Black Americans, because we are Christian. We don't have that sort of music thing. I mean, I think the culture is sort of rubbing off on us, because our media is sort of merging with American media, and people are sort of saying, "Oh, this is cool. Why can America do this, but we can't? Why can American gay people get married, but we can't?" So I think in the Caribbean we have a big concern about our morals decaying because of you guys.
So true. So true. So true. I mean, so true. I think something I'd really like to see, and maybe this doesn't wield well with some people, but it's something we need to acknowledge, is that Fox is not really on our side much. I mean, we can love Tucker Carlson, love him to death, amazing reporter, amazing person. He's on our side. He definitely is. But like the best scenario would be for him to leave Fox, because they'd really see the numbers tank. They would, and they'd notice the fact that them pushing social liberalism is really effectively not wielding well at the base. So I would like to see Tucker move to his own show, but you can go on with what you were saying.
Yeah, I would like to see it too, or him like change networks or something. But I mean, I guess the money is there, because he now has 2 shows on Fox. But I think it's interesting because Fox plays the exact same role in downplaying the moral. What conservatives see as moral, what conservatives see as conservative, really. But you see on Fox, they sort of laugh at people who are still against gay marriage, right? Oh, you're so behind. It's already legal, blah, blah, blah. But that was conservative. That is what conservative meant. That was one of the baseline issues of conservatism. Now it's just some fringed alt-left talking point to be against the redefinition of marriage, right? I think Fox is sort of like what I can't remember if it was John Doyle or Vince Dow or both of them talking at one point, but Fox has played a really big role in slowly, incrementally moving conservatives to the left. And just like Caitlyn Jenner in California would be the worst pick, because she's doing that. And oh boy, big mistake. Because
it's a guy.
I know. I just have so many Okay, let's just pretend that didn't happen. Because I want to say he, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I still want to keep my optics. I don't want you to lose your channel.
Bro, I say so much stuff on this channel. You're
Bro, you gotta be careful.
dude. I don't
Okay.
know. It's kind of a dream of mine to get community striked. That's like a dream of mine.
Okay, let me get on optical then. Let's go. I'm back, so I kind of have the free pass.
So true.
So here we go.
Let me lay the floor to you. Let me wield my power away from you, away from me. Give you some power.
So I think the same reason that we don't want Caitlyn as governor or as any prominent role going to any transgender, because it's clearly an attack on what conservatives believe. We don't believe that Caitlyn Jenner is now a woman. We believe that he's a man that's pretending to be a woman. That's, I mean, fundamental to conservatism. It was almost like a pillar of conservatism when this became a thing. I remember the Ben Shapiro debate when he almost got beat up by a tranny.
Yeah, Zoe Tur, yeah.
I mean, like the fact that this has done a complete 180 and conservatives are even slightly enthused. We have people like Tommy Lauren, who calls herself a conservative. Well, what she likes guns, I guess. I don't even know. Why is she conservative? I don't know. She's pro-choice. She's like, why is she conservative? I actually don't have a clue.
Because she's pretty and wears the MAGA hat. I'm a boomer conservative, and she hates socialism like me.
Oh my gosh, I really don't know why. Why is she?
I mean, I'll take a quote from her. She said, "At one point, I wanted to be a like I don't think I can say that word. A star, you know, one of those P stars, yeah.
Okay,
And but it's actually easier to just be a conservative." And that was something that she said, because it's totally true. Is that we do have this like embraciveness of like the thirst trap conservative that definitely does exist, and especially due to like these boomers. But like going back to Fox, I mean, I did say I'd like to see Tucker leave, but I don't think that's something that we have to actually do as much as we should just be like threatening it. Like if Tucker were to say, "I'm gonna leave if you don't stop like moving the window and stop like giving so much platforms to like the Chris Wallaces and stuff like that."
Yeah.
Because Fox isn't gonna willingly get rid of Tucker. I mean, he is their audience. Mostly is their audience. And
I think Fox is trying to keep up this image of, oh, we're not conservative. We're not CNN alternative. We are just a free speech platform, you know? So that's why they have, like, I remember, I think it was Steven Crowder who was debating someone, and he was just saying, like, oh, Fox has all these guys on who were leftist and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, is that a good thing to, I mean, have this idea that we have to cater to the left when they're not watching the show at all? They're not watching the channel at all. They turned it off years ago.
Yeah, I think this comes from this like idea of us wanting to like return to objective journalism, but how we're occupying that is like the idea of trying to return to like moderation, when that's not actually like, there's a difference between being moderate and being on the side of objectivity and truth. Like it is objective and truthful that this stuff is immoral, that's been embraced. It is. It's something that we got to like call out, because like I understand why it happens, especially if like I'm sure Fox wants to also maintain like their license to like be on television and stuff, but like we got to take some of these risks.
Yeah, it isn't that we have to be in the middle to see what is right and what is wrong. That like there's just the idea that the truth of an issue is in the middle. Is not is being centrist, dude. Like,
Cringe.
like no, it is not, bro. Um, yeah, just no, man.
It's definitely like it's so true. I mean, this idea of like going back to Jenner, the fact that he was on Sean Hannity. I mean, we've lost all these like bastions that we looked up to of like when it comes to like father figures, objective news sources, like role models. We've lost all of these things that we could look up to because of this overtone window really shifting.
I think because Sean Hannity is so inconsistent, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like some weeks I love Sean Hannity, and some weeks I'm just like, is this guy real? Like, is he? I don't know. It's probably a Fox thing, but they just don't seem. I don't know. Like everything that they do just seems fake.
I think it probably comes down to some of the corporations that are like running them and funding them, that they really think they have to like cater to them in order to like maintain the ability to attract so many. But the fundamental idea of like attracting such a broad audience to then just like stay like in like the middle is not actually like winning or being objective, because effectively it's just building a broad audience and then concede on multiple issues. It's not something that's like inherently good at all. So I understand the thought process of Fox of trying to like keep their business going, trying to have the money and spread their influence, but they're not really effectively spreading their influence because of the way that they're trying to build that broad coalition. And that really ties into like this idea of the broad, big tent conservative party. And I'd want to ask like what your thoughts are on that as well.
That can never work. I think I totally agree. This big tent conservatism is just unrealistic, and just liberalism. Because what you're seeing right now, in terms of this big tent, is those who were conservatives in, say, 1990, they're still on the right. They're still where they are. But there's this huge tent, and everyone else is on the left within that tent. But like true conservatives who, I mean, have held on to conservative values are seen as outcasts, seen as fringe, extremists, conspiracy theorists, right?
Yep.
Who are out of touch with everyday Americans, even to mainstream conservatives. You see what happened on January 6th. Conservatives came out in droves to condemn their own people. The very second that everyone was saying that this was the greatest travesty in American. I mean,
so true. Always remember, never forget, man. That one day when one person died, that was one of the protesters
on our side, not even on the other
side. I mean, I think I did send this to you at one point. Like this idea of like the right-wing conspiracists as like the prime example being like Alex Jones, and I did send you this video of like Alex Jones being outside the Capitol, like pushing the people away from like going inside. And it's like, I mean, this is the truth. This is real, but it's like, where is this going to be broadcasted other than like the InfoWars website itself? Because Fox isn't going to allow that to play or anything. They're going to go after their own people. It's like, I understand this idea of like wanting to maintain objective because that's what we want in the end goal, but we're not actually being objective as much as we're trying to just not seem as radicals. There's a difference between like speaking the truth, which is like, okay, it was a bunch of old people that didn't really hold a threat, and all these agencies are really just using this to attack conservatives, and that would be the objective. But what would be the moderate views would be like, Well, I condemn this completely, as well as Black Lives Matter, but this was a big deal as well, and
Yeah,
these people should be like promptly arrested. And it's like, should they? I mean, like,
yeah.
what was 80-year-old grandma doing? Like,
There were people in Black Lives Matter riots. I mean, I don't know a single person that was arrested since, I mean, due to Black Lives Matters, whatever. And I mean, except what's that boy's name? The kid who
I actually don't know.
oh, his
Oh,
name
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Kyle Rittenhouse. Yeah, there's no one except him that comes to mind, and he was literally standing there, um, getting attacked. But whatever, right?
No biggie.
Conservatives have to stand up for themselves in America and really push back against the mob, because the mob is not even just the left. The mob is within the right, and the pundits who want to win elections, who want to keep a good face. And I mean, now that I think about it right now, I can see why they condemned. Because it was like, oh, we have another election coming up. We're going to have another election, so we have to keep our image, because the media, we're not on the side of the media. We're like, we have to immediately condemn. We have to immediately put this down. And there were conservative, maybe boomers, Christians who were saying, oh, I can't support Trump anymore because he's the one who orchestrated this. He's the one who, I mean, incited this, right?
Yeah, his dog whistle of telling people to stand down. You know, code language. You know.
Oh, what a video! What a video! You have to go home. You need peace. Oh boy. Oh boy.
That's, and like, as I was mentioning, like, code language, like, it's just something that you can use. So like, just like discount anything that's like true or objective, or like
Yeah.
anytime like the right actually tries to appear as like moderate or objective, it's just seen as like code language. That's what it's said to be, and it's like, we aren't. I understand the premise of trying to play to like the base of the country by using the media, but like the truth is, we're not going to influence them. They aren't going to push our values. They aren't. They just aren't. Even if we try and move to their side, they're still not going to push our values. They're still not going to be pro us. All it's going to do is make them have to move further to the left so they can then oppose us more.
Yeah.
That's all it does.
And they're creating the left every single day. And this slippery slope is created by conservatives giving way to the left. And the left continues to eat away at our social values, eat away at what conservatives stand for, eat away at what is culturally acceptable, eat away at what our children are going to learn, eat away at all of these things. And then conservatives turn over and say, well, if it was a conservative who did this, if give me a break.
You know, my 4.
Or your mic is muted. Yeah.
I mean, I guess the best way to do would just basically just recap. I mean, let's go over the same ideas. Maybe we'll get back to the thought. I mean, yeah, the winning. We're thinking too much in the short term of like getting this seat and then we win. It's like, if we compromise on such values that we have to get in position, we are doing more harm by moving to the left, because what we're doing is that liberals exist as an opposition to us and our movement to conserve the country. And when we move in directions that are against conserving the country, liberals will actually move more to the left in order to be the opposition to us. That's going to be what happens, is that we are actually moving them further to it. I mean, again, to go over, I hate to be like a broken record, but it's really important, the fact that like we've had unified governments, we've had the presidency, we've had Congress, we've had Senate. The question would be basically, why are we here? And the solution would be, the reason would be us. Like, who else would it be? If when we were in power, it wasn't the socialist, it wasn't Xi Jinping, it was us. I mean,
It was us.
I
Completely
think
true.
the good thing is we're now starting to realize it and call it out. So that's definitely good. We're moving in the right direction. We need to start by just outing these people. I think we're on that track, though.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think that was another win on January 6th. Um, if there was anything good out of that horrible day, right, it was that conservatives were able to see once again who are really for the people, who are really for this movement.
Yeah, I'm sure you have to get going soon, so we'll wrap this up. We really started on this idea of like the black conservative and how that ties into like transgenderism and how we're like compromising on these ideas and playing to the identity politics isn't going to win because they're not going to allow it to us. And to recap, where do you think like the future holds for 2024, and where do you think the future holds to how we start to wield power?
I think I'll reiterate John Doyle. It can only get worse before it can get better. So, wait, that's a bittersweet saying because, I mean, I'm looking at America and I'm thinking, how can it get worse, right? But I'm sure I've seen the decay in such short span. It was like from the second one thing was passed, the conversation was shifted. From the second it was gay marriage, shifted to transgender, shifted to kids being transgender. Kids being transgender, that conversation isn't even over, but it's like you have to teach your kids that it's okay to be transgender. You have to do this, you have to do that. And it's like such immediate and such quick shifts without remorse. So I think there is hope, but I want to be optimistic, but I don't think it's going to come in 2024 like we're expecting, like we want.
I think the one thing that is really good for us is that I don't think the person that they ran, Joe Biden, is going to be the most likable guy going down the line. I don't think Joe Biden's going to be the most like likable guy, and it's going to be someone that we can for an extent target. But I don't know if it'll be 2024 or when. But it really depends on how fast we can accelerate the American First movement. It really does. If we get like Liz Cheney or like a Megyn Kelly in office, that's a loss. It's a loss. Honestly, it's better to have someone like Joe there than someone that's essentially just a rhino.
Yeah, I completely agree because it's to the end goal. It's getting to their end goal anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather get there quickly than have to lie in wait or sort of slowly see everything die while saying, "Hey, our guns, you know, we're not some lunatics who think everyone should have a gun. What are you talking about? We believe that the smartest, the fittest, anyone that can give a reason, they should. But we're not stupid. That's common sense, right? We love America. We love freedom of speech, unless you're online, right? In capitalism, let's go. Based in epic. But it's crazy to think about it.
But yeah, there was also stuff like all the stuff like the Israel and Palestine's. Like I get it, it's a thing that's happening, but like I don't feel like mentioning in this podcast because it's not our concern. It really isn't. We need to be focusing on our people. We should.
Honestly, I don't get why. I mean, I get why. I see why, but
I mean, yeah, it's hard to not like look at rockets being like sent and then being like, oh,
yeah.
you know. But like that's probably my
I think
one
it's interesting
thing.
because we didn't care that was happening in some African country. We don't care that that's happening in. I mean, the list goes on of where that's happening every day. But oh no, Israel, right?
It's happening here. It's just not rockets. It's online attacks and the wielding of power.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard for us, especially with like this boomer nostalgia for like wartime that we've so built up, for us to recognize the enemy, because we don't see what's coming here when there's not like people raiding out the sky, because we have, and maybe this stems from like PTSD being passed down, the tales of war, things like that, but we really have this illusion that there's not really an enemy unless they're like coming down from the sky and we can't really see them. But the reality is the enemy, our biggest enemy, is within our country. It's the people that want to make this country not a country. They want to make it a open place for people to come in and occupy. And
yeah.
Everyone can occupy it, except eventually we won't be allowed to.
Oh boy. I think the way that I would end this is just pray for America. Pray for America.
All right, well, that'll be it from me and Donnie. The king has to sleep in his throne.
Yes.
The king of Turks and Quakos, you know. King of his own place, you know. It's kind of epic. Of course, not as big of a king as God, the biggest king. And so we're gonna pray to him to help us out of this. And we've already seen him starting to take effect with the removal of Liz Cheney and this motion that's starting to happen in the right to energize social conservatism. We're starting to see it, and I believe we're gonna win. It probably won't be in our lifetime that we'll see it, but we are gonna win. It just probably won't be in our lifetime. And it's starting with conversations like this and channels like this and platforms like the ones that Donnie owns, which will be in the description, and this wielding of power and our influence. So I thank you for coming out, and I thank you to all the viewers for being here, and I'll see you guys for the next one. See ya.
Thanks for having me. See you.